It's too wide. Yeah, welcome to the Club Global's Capitals event on the innovative future of mobility. We're very glad and honored to be the Rainmaking Labs. Thanks for hosting us. And I'm very proud to have a new gold solution, a new partner for Club Globals. So I'll bring it to the front, and then just a quick introduction how they're helping our members. So Michael, are you around? There you go. Applause for Michael from Credit Reform.
Thank you, Mario, for your kind welcome words. So we are the new one. My name is Michael from Credit Reform. And so let me give you an overview about our company. So, but I'm not sure, maybe you know our company Credit Reform, sometime you heard from. So we are active in three different areas. So the first one in the risk management area. So for example, if you get to know a new client or a new partner and you don't have any kind of information about this company, we can help you. We can help you, we can give you all the necessary information about the financial situation or the payment behavior or something like that. The second one is collection service, mean receivable management. So if you don't use our risk management, maybe we can help you in the collection service. We can help you and support you to realize your open invoices for your clients or something like that. And the last one is marketing and sales management. With our database, we have approximately 4.2 million companies in our database in Germany. And we have the information from the balance sheet and payment behavior and something like that. And from Europe, approximately 25 million company data. So it's a very, very good platform for marketing activities. And if you have any questions, so I'm the whole evening here. Thank you for your time. I never know, 1 minute exactly? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Michael. So let me just walk you through the agenda, what's going to happen today. So we'll have a panel discussion about the future innovative mobility and sharing economy. So I have the honor to have Yannis Salabopoulos, founder and president of Capital Business Circle. He will host in the panel. And then after the panel, we'll have a buffet and drinks and networking. It's a big buffet, so stay with us. I hope you're hungry because we have been cooking the whole day, okay? Thanks so much. Enjoy the panel. Yannis?
Thank you, Mario, for the kind words. Thank you all of you that you join our meeting tonight. I would like to say just a few words about Capital Business Circle. I'm the president. Is actually a senior international business club, cross-sectoral. We try to connect the old economy with the new economy, and we try always to connect senior professionals from different companies, from different sectors. It's a big challenge, but at Capital's Business Circle, we like challenges. We try always to have modern topics. That's the reason we're very happy to host such kind of events together with our partners. Club Globals is one of our permanent partners. Also, an announcement from our side, we have a new strategic partner in the area of sustainability, Global Sustain, and we'll go also for first time to a second country. We'll be in Athens very soon, and I will have the honor to speak to next week to the annual event of Microsoft Greece about Microsoft technology for NGOs. And also a new partner at the educational level is the SRH University, and more specifically the institution, the Institute for Sustainability. I don't want to bother you more with Capital's Business Circle. Keep on following us at capitalsbusinesscircle.org, our website, Capital Circle, our Twitter, and Capital's Business Circle on our Facebook. We try always to have senior speakers from different areas, and we always meet once per month. Enough from Capital's Business Circle, and we go to the main menu. I'm very happy to announce you our speakers tonight, and we have, I think, the best that we can get from the sector, starting from Tanja from Startupbootcamp Smart Transportation. Thank you, Tanja, for being with us, and thank you for hosting us also. Big applause. Then we have Peter from Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young is also sponsor of this event. Thank you, Peter, for being with us, and thank you, Ernst & Young, also for being partner and sponsor of this event. Peter is Senior Advisor for Automotive at Ernst & Young. If I'm not wrong, please correct me. And we're happy to have you. Big applause. Then we have a representative from a company that I think is enough written on the newspapers. Uber, Christian from Uber Germany. Okay. Thank you for being with us. And last but not least, a very good friend of mine who, by coincidence, is very active in this sector. Florian is director at a very, very innovative project in Berlin, and he will tell us a little bit about that. And I know the InnoZ, you have to say what InnoZ is, but after when you have the word. Thank you for being with us, big applause. As you all know, of course, safety, as Mario said, is an issue in transportation, but here we always want to be optimistic, and we'll say, let's say, what the future look like, and I'm sure that we learn things that we don't know yet, and I'm really looking forward to the statement and the panel discussion. We'll start with a short statement of each speaker, starting always as a gentleman with the ladies. Please, Tanja, you have the word.
Oh, it's my heartfelt welcome to all of you here to the heart of Startup Bootcamp Berlin. This space that you find yourself in is where we started 4 years ago. Startup Bootcamp is a global accelerator. We have recently pivoted into the vertical of smart transportation and energy. We ran our first successful program last year, and I've now secured funding from local partners for the next 3 years, which means we will scout once a year global technologies in the smart transportation and energy sector. We're supported by big companies like Daimler, EnBW, Total, recently joined also Deutsche Bahn, Cisco, just to name a few. The guys are standing in line, so if you guys want to talk about smart transportation and mobility, why these big companies are innovating in this space and what's behind this whole topic, I'd love to get deeper into the discussion with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Short and to the point. Thank you very much. Big applause again. We're moving to my left side to Peter from Ernst & Young. Tell us your perspective.
My perspective is very clear, and you have seen it already in the video without any noise. I brought my best friend today with me, my best buddy, which is our new concept car we showcased in Geneva at the motor show, and we had the car in Hanover during the CeBIT. It's a car based on a BMW i3. It can drive it or himself. That's the future. It's reality because it can do it already. So, giving you two figures, by 2050, we will double the car park from today 900 million to 2 billion cars. And we need the cities and the car industry and other clever companies to solve our mobility challenges until then. And there are many, many ways to do this. As I showcased earlier, with autonomous driving, that's one piece. There will be other challenges. And our purpose is, in our organization, to bring together all the different partners, car manufacturers, cities, companies with new business models to find the perfect solution on mobility and smart cities. That's my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Big applause. I will give the word now to the representative from Uber to share with us his perspective.
Thank you. I guess I don't really have to explain Uber, as said already. Like it's all over the news, especially last week. Probably with some bad press in Germany. I'm really happy to be here today because I think Uber is really at the heart of a disruptive movement, part of the share economy, changing the way really people get from A to B, and with the ultimate goal of taking really cars off the street and making at least the third or second car redundant, and have more and more people to join more sustainable, cheaper, more efficient transportation. I'm really happy to get into a dialogue here on where Uber is going, how we envision the future to be, and I'm really happy to share this illustrious panel here. Thank you.
I'm amazed, they're all professionals. I mean, very short and straight to the point, and
you want me to be short to the point as well? Okay. Hi, my name is Florian Lennert. I'm actually from Berlin. Is there actually anyone else in the room who's actually born in Berlin? Good to see you guys, good to see you. So I was actually an expat for 25 years, and I've just come back to my city a few years ago. So I'm glad to be here and to see you again, Johannes. I work for the Innovation Center for Mobility, and I'm also the director of the Intelligent City Forum, which is a joint venture between the London School of Economics, MIT, Berkeley, as well as the InnoZ, trying really to understand how we bring some of these trends that have been already talked about together within the city. So decarbonization, climate change, autonomous driving, car sharing, the sharing economy, renewable energy, all of these things are sort of converging. And if we really want to make use of them, we need to understand how we combine them in a sensible way to deliver, on the one hand, user-centric and consumer-oriented mobility products, but also how we look at decarbonizing the way we consume energy and obviously reduce pollution in cities. So this is what InnoZ is interested in. We run a living lab at the Gasometer Schöneberg, for those of you who are from Berlin, where we're redeveloping a whole smart city district, essentially focused on looking at how we can power fleets of electric shared mobility with renewable energy and fit that into both a smart grid approach, but also looking at how we can combine that with the energetic refurbishment of buildings. Because buildings can actually produce a lot of energy, which can drive cars. So if we're clever and we really want to not just have a smart city, but an intelligent city, then we can start thinking about how we can use all these trends that have been mentioned and that we're going to talk about, that can help us disrupt really the way we've lived in the 20th century and create a new sort of urban nexus between smart mobility and smart transport. And I just wanted to say that also, while we're here, Tanja has been very modest. This is the Startup Bootcamp, and they found a wonderful space. They started in 3-4 years ago. You really managed to be in the German capital, in the hotbed of mobility. You pulled together all the main stakeholders around mobility in your accelerator, and I think that's a really job well done. So I'm very happy to be here always, and thank you for bringing me in.
thank you, Florian. Guys and ladies and gentlemen, prepare your questions because I'm not the only one who will ask here. So we'll do the start, but I'm looking forward also to have an open dialogue, mainly from your side, to our speakers tonight. But let's start by breaking the ice. Looking to Tanja, and I would like to ask you how the big players from the sector see these new trends. What do they expect from the startups? And what the startups perhaps expect from the big players?
I mean, you can clearly imagine this goes beyond mobility, right? Every big corporate on this planet is currently being completely disrupted by small startups in the innovation space. If you look at some of the valuations of companies like Uber and Apple and so on and so forth, and they own not a single piece of asset, it's quite disruptive, and it's a little bit scary for these corporates. So there's a lot of reasons why they get involved. I mean, for one thing, of course, they want to source innovation on a global scale, which is exactly what we do for them. So just today, we had a strategy session with all these companies, you know, Airbus, Total, Daimler, Deutsche Bahn, you know, sitting in a room together and looking at where do we see, you know, the world in 5 years. It's not about, you know, sharing economy anymore, Uber disrupting our space. It's what's going to happen in 2 to 3 years from now, and what are we prepared to scout for? What do we want to invest in? So of course it's participation. So of course, not only do they get to see all the deal flow that we see across the planet, but it's more about how do they get to engage not only with the startups, but with the entire ecosystem, right? How do they transport some of that digital innovation back into their big corporations? How does it change their processes? How can it make them faster and bigger players so that 100 little fish that are attacking one big giant aren't going to disrupt their business model? So this is basically what we spend most of our time with, and we love doing it. Clearly, we're quite successful at it. We're just building a second program in San Francisco around about smart transportation and mobility. And we've just compiled, if you're interested, we can get into this later.
You're absolutely right that the car industry is going through a major change. Moving from a producer of premium cars in Germany to move to a provider of premium mobility services. You can go to all of the homepages of Daimler, Volkswagen, BMW. You can see the offerings of car sharing, of Park My Now, and all these things. And what does this mean? At the end of the day, it's a question, who owns the mobility customer of the future? It's a development from the core product orientation, what happened 129 years, to move to a user orientation. I give you the example of another industry. Most of you in the room have grown up with the vinyl, with the White Beatles album. Once you open up the White Beatles album, you saw nice pictures from the Beatles, you took out the vinyl, put it on a player, and heard fantastic music. Then came the CD, and today you download all Beatles music via iTunes. Wherever you are, where you are in the plane, in the car, at home, wherever. Those who were focused on the product, on the vinyl, running out of business, and those who are providing the services are the winners. And the same development we will see in the automotive industry, in the car industry, and therefore they are looking for more collaboration to be better to provide services which would include the hardware car, but not just as a single point of contact. And that is a tremendous development we see. And the future will be also these autonomous cars, because they have one big advantage. Since 129 years, we are, as humans, still killing people on the street. It's not the car. With autonomous driving, we can reduce the number of killed people on the street significantly. Going forward, these cars can take our kids in the morning to school, take us to the office, and go shopping for us also in the afternoon. This is not a vision, it's reality, because we do not need any additional infrastructure on the street, different to EVs, where we need loading stations and etc. So if we go there to that point, I mean, we will open up a new dimension, how we can organize infrastructure mobility within cities. And at the end of the day, it is the competition between Hamburg, Berlin, Munich, who is not just offering the best living, the best shopping, also offering the best infrastructure, which would include smart mobility and smart city.
Very good questions. We see a fundamental shift in the market, and that's triggered by technology, obviously. The smartphone is a big driver for our service, and I don't know how many have a smartphone here, but I would assume like at least close to 100%. And that's obviously changing the way we get information and the way we travel, the way we book and buy our products, also including mobility, and that's driving us, and that's a societal change as well. But also deeply in the society, people care less about the assets they used to have. Like if you ask young people about how much they care about a car, it's less and less. We see the average age of the driver license going up. Before, probably generations, once they matured, when they became 18 years old, they immediately had the driver's license probably the next day. Now that's moving up to 21, 22 years. And that shows that, well, the car is still a very important means of transport, especially in rural areas. But in urbanized cities, this becomes less and less of an importance, at least for younger generations. Maybe later when you have babies, when you found a family, that might change again, but at least that trend is growing very rapidly. And Uber is somehow using these trends and disrupting, and I wouldn't, disrupting the whole industry in the sense that it's part of on-demand share economy, so that means I want to have a service, I want to have a ride from A to B whenever I need it. And with Uber, it's at the tip of your finger. Within 2 minutes, you have the ride. And that's really changing the way people get from A to B. And we see that in mature Uber cities like London, Paris, New York, San Francisco. Actually, the market, the demand is growing much beyond what we have seen there. If you look, for example, at San Francisco, the taxi market was there $120 million a year. Now, Uber alone is $500 million. So you see that it's not eating up from an existing pie, maybe a little bit, but it's more about growing the pie. You really see people go out much more. They see friends more easily, just because it's so available, so at the tip of your finger, that it's changing people get from A to B. And if I look then at other stakeholders, I think we're part of a movement where we try to attack car ownership. We are part of I'm always explaining it like that there are different means of transport that get you from A to B, but there's only one means of transport where you have to go from A to B and back to A again, and that's your car. And Uber, among other transport providers, just like public transport, taxi, car sharing, ride sharing, bike sharing, whatever, walking, is all about getting you from A to B, and maybe you take another way back. So obviously all these means of transport and all the incumbents are competing with each other, but actually we're complementing each other as well in the fight against car ownership. And that's the ultimate goal, that in at least highly dense urban areas, you don't really need a car anymore. You just have all these flexible solutions that you use whenever you want to use it, and that's best suited for your current need. And we see that happening, that a lot of our riders end their trips at a public transport station and take the metro back, or take a car sharing from A to B, and later when they're a little bit high on when they had a drink, basically, that they can't take the car back, they take an Uber, they take a taxi, or they walk back. So that's the shift we see.
No, I think this is really the big question. And for those of us who are from Berlin, ich bin einfach ein alter Naiver. So I'm a little naive. I'm asked, like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here, right? The problem we're trying to solve is how we get people from A to B in cities. People, not cars, people. So the overriding starting point of how we analyze, how we design future mobility should be, how do we get people in a more efficient, cheaper, and more sustainable way from A to B? Now, that obviously will have to be a combination of a large-scale public transport infrastructure in combination with some individual last-mile delivery where you might need some transportation to some public transport hub. You may also want to look at car sharing as a supplement to this. So you might want to look at a mobility on-demand system in cities where you've got public transport, bike sharing, car sharing, various forms of transport at your fingertips that you as the user and consumer can use when you want to. And that's probably the most cost-efficient way that you could organize this. And I think this is where, before we start trying to innovate sectorally, in what I call in-system innovation. And so far that's what Uber is, and that's what autonomous driving is. It's all in-system innovation. We're somehow trying to protect this kind of business model of that we're going to drive around in cars in cities. Cars were invented not actually by Mr. Ford to design mobility inside of cities. It was interurban travel. Somehow we redesign all our cities to move 2 tons of technology to the city. But actually we're trying to move 80 kilos of human beings to the city. So we need to start bringing the physical dimension into this, and the physical energy dimensions into this, if we want to start really talking about radical ways of looking at mobility in cities. So at the moment, I agree that we need to move away from private ownership of cars. We need to move cars out of cities. The privately owned fossil automobile is in itself micro and macroeconomically the most inefficient way that we could possibly, even if we wanted to, design mobility in cities. So it has nothing even to do with the environment. It's just the fact that 90% of the time these cars are stationary, 90% of the time they have one person sitting in them. Now, if you look at this as an investment banker, so I spend $25,000 on a car to watch it depreciate while my running costs go up. It's insane. So that's just the microeconomics. But the most important thing I'd like to throw in, and as you suggested, Tanja, is that we cannot just look at this case as a mobility case alone, because mobility, 80% of mobility happens in cities. In the next 50 years, the majority of people will live in cities. So when we talk about mobility, we talk about space, we talk about pollution, we talk about noise, we talk about a lot of other issues. So we cannot just say, I'm going to throw a lot of vehicles in there that drive people around, but to what purpose? Is that the best way to organize them? I'm not so sure. So we need to figure out what is the best way to organize, the most energy efficient way to organize transport, but also the most cost efficient. So I think Uber is playing an interesting role in disrupting, but I think at the moment what you're not engaging with, and that would be my message back, is you're not engaging with that negotiated relationship of the future city. Because you're saying at the moment, and again, to those who are here, I mean, your business model is 40 years old. The Mitfahrzentrale just got published every 2 weeks in Zweite Hand, and you know, so the only thing is now you want to digitalize it with technology you didn't invent, and you want to build a margin on top. So you're a little bit like the guy who's holding the hand up in the middle. And I think that, you know, if we talk about fair mobility in cities, we do need to talk about minimum wage, security, safety regulations, and those things. And so I would, what I would love Uber to do in Berlin is to say, hey, I'm going to run Uber with 50 electric cars and make that business model work. Then I think people will listen, because that's what we've been trying to do. So it's not like we don't empathize with your problem, but I think you can't come in here, otherwise you'll end up the new Monsanto. You know, and I think this is something you need to pass back out to the US. Because, you know, as a famous Deutsche Bank analyst said, a bunch of unsophisticated Americans trying to push a business model in Europe, it isn't going to work. But, I mean, this is my little provocative statement back to say, how can Uber actually become part of this transformation, rather than just be a kind of a profiteer of it?
So I think there is a challenge here that has to be answered. So, Christian?
I guess there must be always a bad guy on the stage, and Uber is pretty famous for being the bad guy, so just it's fine. Like, no, but I really like the statement that we obviously have also like a social responsibility in cities if we innovate in this space. And I think there are already like some initiatives going on worldwide where Uber is changing the way. For example, just like the electromobility, even though we don't see ourselves as somebody pushing electromobility by its like for the sake of it forward. In London, for example, we have the UberX product, which is a licensed peer-to-peer product, and actually 80% of the cars, and that's it's a 4-digit number, are electro vehicles. So we've teamed up with a big Japanese car manufacturer who is providing our drivers with cheap vehicle financing, and we actually made that happen. So there are now over 20,000 electric vehicles going around in London, and we're facilitating that, even though it's a side product, because we see that we have a social responsibility here. And I think other signs are, for example, that city partnerships we're doing, for example, with Boston, where we share aggregated data of which are happening in Boston. It is that every 90% of Boston's area is touched by an Uber car within 10 minutes. So there are no other player in Boston at the moment that knows so much of where traffic is flowing, at what time, at what speed, etc. And there's a tremendous value for the city of Boston to optimize traffic flows, to think where a night bus should end, where a night bus should prolong a little bit, another hour on a Saturday night, where demand is actually high and people are currently relying on an Uber. So that's showing like a partnership where we see value also for cities. And I mean, like, if you look at the grand vision where Uber wants to go, I guess that's Uber Pool. I don't know if you have heard of that. Uber Pool is a solution where riders are matched with another rider that is going the same direction. And I mean, at the moment, probably there's also traffic induced by a flexible ride-sharing solution, and there's also a lot of discussions how beneficial car sharing, for example, is. But Uber Pool has really the vision that you get into an Uber, you type in where you want to go, and at the same second, it's matching you with somebody else that's going the same direction. And the minute you get out, the system is matching you again with another person going the same direction. So I was actually just 4 weeks ago in San Francisco, and it's pretty amazing. I just used Uber Pool, and the driver is really saying he's starting the car in the morning, he's getting on the road, and basically throughout the day, probably there's a dip during lunchtime, but throughout the day he has always 2 people in the cars. And this is really taking, then in the end, traffic off the road, definitely cars off the road. And I think there we have like a social responsibility we take and a challenge we take, and we're up for it. So I think Uber is quite open in forming new partnerships, and I would love to do the same here in Berlin. So let's speak later over a beer on what we can do here. But I think that the company is open for it.
The question is because you said nobody will move to electrical cars unless the Chinese will force us. Basically, it's somebody, if it's the Chinese government or any other government, will move us. But don't you believe that the people have a need to be good people, saying that they have the need to go for ecological or any other reasons into the electrification of cars, and that will, of course, boost then Tesla or anybody who's providing that kind of service technology?
My name is Uli. I'm a founder of the startup Kaya, and Kaya is providing valet parking or valet parking at the airport Tegel here in Berlin. Do you think that valet parking or valet parking is or could be one of a solution, of a current solution and a future solution for mobility?
Good evening, I'm Jelaine from T-Dispatch, and I basically want to know from Uber, from everyone up there, where do you draw the line between technology development and transportation industry and what's actually already established and what are people already doing? Where do you draw the line between that?
So I actually wanted to add a comment as well. So my name is Katina from the startup Matchrider, and I think it's really important that we think about the words that we use to define the different forms of mobility. So what is ride sharing? What is ride selling? What is carpooling? What is taxi sharing? What is simply taxi 2.0? And so I think it's really important we make a distinction between these terms, because for me, ride sharing is a ride is already happening whether there's demand for it or not, right? And then you're optimizing the occupancy of that vehicle. Ride selling is earning money to sell a ride to the community. And then there's peer-to-peer taxi riding, which is like UberX. So I have a car, I want to earn some extra money, I share my ride. And then there's like Uber Pool, which is taxi sharing. How do I optimize the amount of people that are sitting within a taxi? And so these are very powerful terms, and I think it's really important that we as consumers are careful and we question what really are these concepts. And yeah, so more of a comment, and I actually am interested in hearing Florian's perspective on that.
Mobility needs to be affordable. We have the challenge at the moment that electric cars, although they have a lot of fun, whoever has driven an EV does not want to have a car with a combustion engine any longer, because the acceleration, everything is so nice, but unfortunately at the moment, and this is for many countries, it's not affordable because it's too expensive. So therefore we will need a longer time to move to EVs. On the other side, and I'm not a technician, but many people, when they start to think about green technology, when you start counting from a well-to-wheel calculation with CO2 emissions, in many calculations it said, although you have a zero-emission car, when you produce the energy out of a coal plant in China, the total CO2 emissions is higher than using a standard combustion engine. As I said, I'm not a numbers cruncher, not a technician. It is a question of affordability. And then people in China has the issue in the cities of Shanghai, Beijing. It's so bad with the climate, they need to have zero emission on the ground. So therefore, they will make the change much faster than in any other region of this globe, and therefore push for EVs whether people like it or not. Thank you.
If I'm a systems designer, am I just trying to increase the efficiency of an existing system that is fundamentally inefficient? So where do I draw the line between product development and systems design would be how I want to answer this. And that's where we have to come back to first order questions. It's, what are we trying to organize, which is 80 kilo or 70 kilo people being moved to the city. So to pick up your thought, the reason why we have these concepts such as range anxiety is because the automotive industry is trying to replicate an old-fashioned automobile concept. So if the car weighs 2 tons, of course it's going to need a big battery, and of course it's not going to be able to have the range I need. But for my driving in the city, I don't need that size. I need a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler. It can be lightweight. It doesn't need to have more than 2 seats. So once we start rethinking the automobile, then we don't have a problem of how we can actually integrate it. So for me, those two things can't be separated, because I think that we're at the cusp of quite a fundamental revolution around mobility, because when we start asking the real questions, which are physical, energetic questions, and to give you a quick example, if I want to drive a car for a kilometer, and I look at the time it takes me to work, to earn the money, to buy the car, to drive the kilometer, if I look at the calorific value of this, probably I would spend less calories walking the mile. So actually it makes no sense for me on many different levels to buy this car, because I can probably consume that unit of mobility in a different way. And so I think we need to start thinking about units of mobility and at the energetic balances of these, and then figure out, do these systems that we have actually make sense? Because if you think about it, they don't really. They're actually fundamentally absurd. And I think unless we start thinking about systems that way, then we can get over this, I have a car or I have an Uber, which for me at the moment is all messing around with, the little efficiency issues, but not the real big question is, why are we burning fossil fuels to drive 2 tons of people, a car around to move 80 kilograms a person? And I think unless we address those issues, all of this is just froth on the top.
I lived in San Francisco for 11 years, and I don't know why. I've been waiting for 20 years. I don't know why people in Europe do not give a damn about valet parking. You could go to a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and people still are used to the fact that they have to go into a Tiefgarage, park their car, maybe then there's a guy that takes their key. I'm still waiting. I have no answer. I think it's a cultural thing. I think us Germans, yeah, it's a cultural thing. It's not okay. Yeah, I agree. I think it's culturally. I don't see that happening. For some reason, it's not going to disrupt anything here, I think.
And can I just say also, it would be the wrong message, because it would make it easier for people with cars, and we need to get rid of privately owned vehicles in cities. Period. That's what's going to have to happen. So this is an in-between strategy.
Last comment, what lady asked you?
It was about the wording.
Yes, no, and I'm so sorry. That's what I was trying to get to. I knew I missed, and I was trying to synthesize that. That's exactly the question, because what are we describing here? And this isn't about Uber. I think that this is also about the automobile industry. Are we just designing business cases to somehow sell our services, our technologies that we have embedded already, or are we really solving a mobility problem? And I think this is where we go back to the fact that I remember using all these services in the 80s, and the only difference is that they weren't taking a margin and they didn't have an electronic app. So in terms of peer, and if we really talk about the sharing economy, we have to redefine whether this is just a taxi 2.0 case. And at the moment, that's what I think it is personally. But I think there's a wonderful article by Joanna Zuboff. I think you may have read it also in the New York Times, who I think summarized some of these issues wonderfully. That we then also need a power that regulates for the consumer how I actually purchase all these mobility services. And I think that was a wonderful way, and I recommend everyone to read that by the woman who wrote the wonderful book In the Age of the Smart Machine.
Hi, my name is Andre. I think there's another big player on this, let's say, field, which is the political environment, right? And I think Peter touched the topic by saying, okay, if the Chinese government would take this decision, how do you see the, let's say, European, German political environment? Are they ready for this shift of mobility or not? Like a general question. And a bit more to Tanja. Let's say the old economies like Deutsche Bahn and Daimler, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, etc., etc. I have the feeling that they are just dinosaurs. Are they ready to be fast and quick and change and innovative?
Hello, I am Hughes. One question, if we have got a self-driving car and Uber Pool, what is the difference with the public transportation system?
So how do you measure the readiness of a corporation, right? I mean, this is a tough question. They try damn hard, I mean, you've got to give them credit. Each and every one of them in different versions, right? So they go, some of them do all of it like Bosch. They have their own incubator, they have an own accelerator, they have a venture capital arm. They're thinking about growing their own funds in different verticals, three-pronged approach. I mean, so many companies, Lufthansa, co-creation, everyone's trying really, really hard, and I think we've got to applaud them for what they're trying to do. Are they ready? It's a tough one. I mean, at least they're giving it a shot. At least they're aware that there's all these incumbents that are going to probably disrupt their business models in terms of how much they're going to catch up and how much are they going to innovate out of their own, accord, or at least support new innovations. It's a tough one for me to answer. I mean, I'm here right now to help them do the very best that they can to at least participate in some of those innovations that are going on. I don't think a big corporate is ever ready, because at the end of the day, I've worked for so many different corporations. I'm trying to deal with digital innovation. Sometimes they give me a venture capital fund, sometimes they give me an accelerator. And almost all the time, it fails, or at least it doesn't progress to the point that you want it to because of internal processes, board member changes, all those governance topics. That, at the end of the day, they do beautiful things. They spend billions and millions of dollars, and at the end of the day, at some point in time, they have to concede because somebody else comes in and takes it over or doesn't agree. I've got to do the best I can, be an optimist, and say that they're doing the very best that we can, and let's support them with wholeheartedly, and helping them make that happen. That's the best I can do on that front.
Yeah, about self-driving, I mean, it's still an individual car, and when you see the video on the body, you can choose whether you hand over the steering wheel to the machine and relax in the car, or whether you still want to have the steering wheel in your hands. Because there are situations where you love to drive on the left lane in the Swiss Alps, you want to drive yourself. If you are stuck in a traffic jam, you do not want to drive yourself. You hand over the steering wheel, you can work, read, do other things. When the Googles and Apples then enter the car and help you to use your free time to do more things with you. And also on your individual mobility, you can choose and select still what you do. If you take EV without pollution, you can use your own car. And I mean, we need to be very careful. People still buying cars and will still own cars. The key question is how fast we are able to integrate all the different players and concepts. And that is the key. And coming back to the question, how far are the car manufacturers? They have done car2go, drive now, park now. I mean, they are very clever. They do a lot of things. Just go on the home pages of each of the car manufacturers. You will see mobility service and offerings to you which are significantly. I mean, think about Designing, developing a car takes about 6 to 7 years. Combining this with the smartphone means the smartphone industry, IT industry, is always in the beta cycle. To really synchronize these fast developments is very key. And I can tell you something, the car manufacturers will never give up to own money with mobility. And it will always include the car. And they are clever enough, not everybody on the globe, but I think the German car manufacturers do a very good job so far. Thank you.
Just to sum up, perhaps a very short last comment each one of you. Where do you think we're going to stand in 3 to 4 years from now in mobility and sharing economy? Are we going to see something we don't know now? Share your vision.
I'm not sure that we're going to see the vision that I have in 2 to 3 years. I think there'll be more sharing. I think there'll be smarter and more intelligent and efficient movement of people and goods. I think there'll be a disruption in the last mile delivery sector. But I've got the European and the German perspective at the moment, so I'm not going to go global or see where I see the vision in San Francisco or in China. Yeah, that's what I see for Germany for now.
Well, I actually believe that that this topic is actually overheated, and that some of the topics will die away. It's somehow a bubble which attracts a lot of money, where there's a lot of hype about. It's a very modern, interesting, exciting topic, but actually I think over the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of that will fade away, and we will have again a reset on where we will go the next decade. So I have a little bit a more pessimistic view about the next 2 to 3 years. I think there's great future for within 10 years, but I think that there is a bubble that will burst quite soon.
I think it's batteries and autonomy. I think once we crack those two problems, then we can start designing mobility on-demand systems that are sustainable in cities.
I think we will see major developments within 5 years. I believe it's not a bubble, because the consumer get used to that there is something different than just owning a car with a combustion engine, and it's all about affordability to get better and more clever from A to B. Therefore, together with all the different players and stakeholders, we will see, as I said, significant movements.
Thank you all for this very lively, open discussion and dialogue. Thank you, Tanja again, Christian, Florian, Peter. Thank you again, Ernst & Young, Startup Bootcamp, and Rainmaking Law for the support, partnership, and hosting us here. And thank you all of you that you were very patient, but I think, or I hope at least you like the discussion. And the buffet is open, and looking forward to, you have a surprise?
A little present for the speakers.
Ah, okay, good. Thank you all of you. Enjoy, and see you outside. Bye.
I'm the new gold solutioner here at Club Global, so I'm from Kreditreform. Kreditreform is a supplier for risk management, for receivable management, as well as marketing management. So I think most people know Kreditreform. And yes, so we are new here. It was very interesting, the first evening, the first event tonight. And so I'm very happy, I'm glad, and I will come often, more often.
Hello, I'm Delphine. I'm from La Poste in France. I'm here with a group of French corporate coming here to feel the Berlin creative energy. And we came to this event at the Rainmaking Love, a really cool place for the event, and it was really interesting, very cool intervention, and very fluid, and all about this mobility disruption. And it's really for postal incumbent another disruption we have to face for all about deliveries and the last mile delivery and logistics. And this is something we are really keen to follow. And it was really interesting how they managed the discussion about it, and also all about regulation, about electric and environment issues. So that was great. Thanks.
G'day, my name is Tyson Drake. I am from Adelaide, South Australia, and I am from a company builder and venture capitalist called Product Day Ventures. And unlike a traditional venture capital firm, we not only invest in startups, we also provide operational expertise, including online marketing, business infrastructure, business intelligence, recruiting, and organizational structure and product user experience. I came to tonight's event through a Google search, and I'm very happy with the quality. I've never been to an event before, however, I'm very happy with the quality of people, the level of intellectual discussion, and I'll definitely be coming to another event in the future. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Robert Hurd. I work for the Taiwan Embassy in Berlin. I just came here 2 months, so I'm very pleased to join this event this evening. It's very awesome. We are talking about the futures of the mobility and also the sharing economies. And certainly I learned a lot from this tonight, from this very broad issues, and certainly will influence the lifestyle of us.
Yeah, my name is Katina Schneider, and I'm originally from Detroit. I spent the first 21 years of my life in that area, and I'm here in Berlin right now as of 3 weeks. I recently joined the Axel Springer Plug and Play Accelerator. So I'm co-founder from a startup called Matchrider, and so it's in the mobility space, and so that's what really got me excited to come here to hear what's going on. It's also located across the street from the rainmaking loft, so that was convenient. But really, I was at a podium discussion about mobility 2 weeks ago, and I really found the quality today quite good. I really liked how the questions were a bit more provoking, because then there's more interesting conversations and kind of a discussion and debate going on that is better for, I think, the people here.
Hello, my name is Christian Freese. I'm the general manager of Uber in Berlin. We are really happy to be the partner of Club Globals, providing your partners and also everybody who's interested in Berlin to use the Uber app to get efficiently, safe, and in a cost-efficient way from A to B.
Well, my name is Jelaine Berry, and I'm here at this wonderful event. It was really great. I'm the PR marketing intern of T-Dispatch from the Netherlands, and I love this event. It was great getting to interact with everyone and see what all these startups are doing, and also on the panel with all the discussions and the interesting questions, and I learned so much, and I'm loving it here in Berlin.
My name is Peter Fuß. I'm a Senior Advisory Partner Automotive for Ernst & Young. We are a new solution provider to this organization. The topic we are very much involved in is future mobility, to do a proper collaboration between the automotive industry, cities and other stakeholders in order to get a better way to move ourselves from A to B, which will be affordable and which will reduce CO2 emissions.
Okay, my name is Uli. I'm the founder of the startup Kaya. Kaya is doing valet parking at the airport Berlin-Tegel, and I'm interested here in the discussions about mobility in the future and nowadays. So the speeches were very interesting of the different panel team members, and it would be nice if I could come back and have another nice session here.
My name is Tanja Kufner. I'm the Managing Director of Startupbootcamp Smart Transportation and Energy here in Berlin. I would love to thank Mario for a wonderful event tonight and for having me on the panel tonight. We are the only startup bootcamp verticalized on smart transportation and energy, meaning we scout top technologies around the globe once a year to be part of a bootcamp acceleration program here in Berlin. Our partners are great companies like Deutsche Bahn, Cisco, Daimler, EnBW,
who are all trying to get a part of the innovation space. They want to participate in the innovation in the smart transportation and mobility sector. It's been a great event. Thank you so much.